So we are going to be alternating between that whiteboard and this presentation. We'll just use that whiteboard to do simple calculation. Hopefully, I'll be able to do it with this mouse on that screen. So this pricing thing is usually influenced by Incoterms. That's why that one that I sent has CIF to somewhere in China, so to a port in China. So in calculating that, you have to find a way to get the exact price of that sesame seed. So let's say it is Kano. I'm just using Kano as an example. It can be Kaduna, it can be other states in the north. So, but let's say you want to lift that sesame seed from Kano, for instance, and maybe the price that was given to you is 800,000 naira per ton. Let's say 800,000 naira per ton. So it means you have to, let's say 800 naira per ton. Let me share this whiteboard again. Where do I see that? Okay, let's use PowerPoint. Let's use PowerPoint for that calculation. Let's say uh origin is Kano, Nigeria, and the commodity is sesame seeds. And let's put a little bit of specification. Let's say for specs, for the specification, let's just say the sesame seed is cleaned and 2025 cleaned, processed, 2025 harvest. Okay, so I'm just using this as an example though. So let's say this is what you are looking at, and your commodity, your commodity is going to somewhere in China. So price to be calculated is CIF. I think there is CoinDAO port China. Let me just use that as an example. So if you now hear that, if you hear that 1 ton, 1 ton of this sesame is selling for, so let's say 1 ton is selling for 800,000 naira. That's just an example in naira. So Now, from our Incoterms, one of the Incoterms we are considering today is X-works, EXW. So we can say the X-works for the what's it called, for the commodity is 800,000. That is the X state, the price from Kano, the price from that state, or the price from the farm, X farm, that kind of thing. So I'm still going to break that. I'm still going to explain that in the presentation. So, but let's just go ahead with this. So, and then you look at it that you are buying. Okay, so let's just say this is 1 ton, and you are buying let's say 30 tons for a container. Let me let's say 30 tons for one container. So in this, we are looking at how much is this? I don't have a calculator here. So let me see. 30 multiplied by 8. That's 240. Four. And we have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So this is like the price of a container. So the 30 tons is like the price for, to fill one container of it. So now to move to let's say logistics, total logistics. Total logistics, I'm putting phone calls that had to be done, local transportation that had to be done to the market, to maybe whatever, um, what have you, what again would you have spent money on? The truck itself that is going to pick up,
You
uh,
eat there, right?
huh?
Should food be included?
Should what?
Food, the food
Food,
you
okay.
eat.
Yeah, so food you eat, maybe like you sent an agent there now. The agent is working. The agent will collect money for this, will collect money for that, and all this. Let's say overhead. Let's say overhead expenses, and let's say LGA. Let's say you paid local governments, all these people that will come and meet you. You have to take this ticket. You have to take that before your truck can move. So there used to be all those kind of expenses too. So then let's put uh why the driver was coming, something happened, they ask you to send maybe another 10,000, another. So let's just put all that in that overhead expenses. Then trucking. Okay. So we can say total logistics to Lagos. Let's put to Lagos here. Let's put to Lagos. Coming to Lagos from Kano. So let's everything amount to about three, or let me say 2.5. Let me say everything amounts to 2.5 million. Let's bold this one. Let's bold this one too. About 2.5 million. So now, the season seed also, we are going to still put it inside sack. So let's say we bagged it, packaging. Let's call that packaging. Let's say packaging because it's not just going to so packaging. Okay, so for this packaging, we can say packaging of season plus dressing of container, because we have to dress container too. So plus dressing of container. What other thing is actually there? What am I missing on? Then maybe fumigation. Okay, we'll put that elsewhere. We'll put that elsewhere. Then packaging, dressing of container. So let's say this costs us maybe 300,000. Let's say that costs us 300,000. Then we okay. So then what again do we want to add to this? So freight forwarding, by the time your truck lands to in this trucking I put here, we've already added container costs, the cost of acquiring container, getting the truck, fuel, everything is in trucking. So freight forwarding will just be all the documentations that needs to be done uh pre pre-terminal, like everything that the freight forwarder needs to do before the truck enters into the terminal gets called up and all that. Then when it gets to the terminal, all the customs, duties, documentation that needs to be paid and all that for the container to be dropped in the ports, all that is also inclusive. Freight forwarders charges also, all that is also inclusive. Because the freight forwarder is still going to work on documentation, certification after the vessel has, been loaded after the container has been loaded on the vessel before getting all the documentation. So let's put all this one at about, let's say 5. Let's say everything here is 500,000. So let's put everything there as 500,000. Then documentation slash certificates that are needed. Uh, let's say that will cost. Actually, that will cost maybe another 500,000. Okay. So all this should get our our container there. So, but since we are looking at CIF, so because this CIF is really important. So this is cost, insurance, and freight. So since we are looking at CIF, we are going to bring this down. CIF. So cost, insurance, and freight. So this is like the cost breakdown we've been able to do. But now we need to look at insurance and freight. Insurance and freight. So if you look at that insurance side and freight, so let's say insurance is like maybe $350, or let's say now let's just say $400 for insurance. Yeah, so let's say insurance. So let's just bring this into another slide. So let's okay. Okay, so let's say insurance and freight. So let's say our insurance equal to 400 USD, and our freight should be around, maybe to that destination, let's say 3,000, to China, let's say like 3,500 USD. Okay, so for these ones, For the insurance, you might need to pay the insurance from here. The buyer also can pay his insurance from his end, and buyer can also clear that freight. But since it's insurance and freight, so you do all that from here. So if we now go back to our naira, so let's just put this down here. So if we go back to our naira, what we want to break down from this one container now is we are looking at 24 million naira. That's 24 plus 300,000 naira for packaging and all that. 300. In this, our total logistics, what's it called? These overhead expenses also include all these people that will help you to carry load into your container, that will help you to arrange it. Those that will carry load is different from those that will arrange the container. And you have to make sure all of them are paid. So everything is inclusive. So plus 2.5, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, plus 2.5 million naira. Then freight forwarding and documentation, both is 1 million. Both is 1 million. So everything is 27.8 million naira. So let's put a total to this and say the total here is 27.8 million naira. So let's bring this to our insurance and our freight. Okay, so we can do so from here. Okay, let's call this total cost. Let's not just say total. Let's say total cost. Let's say total cost. So in our next slide now, we can now say that cost, insurance, and freight. So let's bring this. Let's say our total cost. Our total cost equal to 27.8. I hope you are following me, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so let's say 27.8. So these are 27.8 now. We want to convert it to USD. So let's use what should we use?
1.5. Dollar to Kenya is 1.5 now, I
1.5.
think.
So let's use our standard 1.5 and let's just say this divided by 1,500. So we have 18,533. 18,533.33 USD. Okay, so if that's our total cost, our insurance is 400, our freight is 3,500, then we'll come down and say that our CIF for that container is going to cost us this plus 400 plus 3,500 plus 3,500. That's 22,433.33 USD. Okay, so now USD. So this CIF cost is for our 40 feet container. Oh, we did a mistake. Okay, so it's not really a mistake. Let's just look at this now. So this is our cost for the 40 feet container, right? So if you look at this, we calculated cost, we calculated all our expenses, logistics, blah, blah, blah. One very important thing is missing, and that's profit. And that's our profit. Our profit is missing. We didn't add our profit. All those things, our profit is not there. So you see that the cost now is 24. So if you are doing a job that the expense or the cost is 22,000, blah blah blah. At least you want to make a profit of, let's say, about 20 to 25% of it. So what's 25% of this? So we can say something like multiplied. So we are having about 5,600. So we can come and say we can do something like this. Let's just put this. Let's just have profit equal to 5,608.33. Of course, this is subject to your own negotiation, like maybe with the buyer. So might be that, okay, maybe you might look at it that maybe, oh, this profit is too much, I can reduce it, I can do the business I have. So that's left for you. So, but let's just use this for our calculation. So what we did with the profit is we just said 25% of our costs. Okay, so that means that CIF, our total will be equal to let's see, that's 22,433.33. So we have 28,041. All right, so USD. So let's say we have this for our 40-feet container. And you know that 40-feet container, we are filling it, we want to fill it with 30 tons, because what we bought for it is 30 tons. So sometimes it can be more than 30 tons. It can be like maybe 32 tons, can be like 35 tons, can even be like 28, 27 tons, because sometimes containers, those containers, some will be like brand new, they will still, maybe it's just 30 tons that can fit. Some have been used, they've been pressed, they've expanded. They can even take up to 35 tons. So those are just the differences. But let's say what you are using is standard, you are using like 30 tons, or you've already told your buyer and you agreed to make use of 30 tons. So you just do your 30 tons. So when you have your total this way, you can now break down your quotation. Your quotation can now be let me put that in another slide. So when you are asked for your quotation, so your quotation, now that you know that, my cost is 28,041.3 USD for my container. That's the cost for my container. But because you are giving your quotation now, you are not going to give that to the buyer, so that you'll just be negotiating on all. So you won't do that. So what you just do is you divide this by 30. You divide it by 30. So when you divide it by 30, you have 900. You have so your price is going to be 934 USD. So you put it there per ton. CIF Qingdao Port, China. So this is your quotation. So this is your quotation for that port in CIF. So anybody that sees this now will know that okay. Per ton, it's going to, that means that this price that you actually called contains the cost, the insurance, and the freight to that port in China. So that's just what it means. So most times when you are not really careful about your calculation, you might make mistake looking from internet and all that. Then you might also over project the price in a way that the buyer will just look at it and say that this person thinks I'm a fool, or this person thinks I can't, I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't know the price in the market. So that's why sometimes you need to just table your calculations yourself. Although another issue is that in the international market, you can have issues like your price higher than other pricing around the world, even higher than neighboring countries' prices. Why? Because, like for instance, currently, like let's say when that subsidy was first removed and every price skyrocketed, fuel price was so high, it was 1,000 and something dollars was, $1 was going to almost 2,000 naira. At that particular time, if someone should tell you that, oh, come and supply me sesame seed, what's the price? You can't the best thing is just to tell the buyer that for now, maybe trade isn't so suitable in Nigeria, or you give the person a competitive price, a good price, and you go out of Nigeria to fill in that order. Maybe to Benin Republic, to Togo, to Niger, to neighboring countries, and you do your whatever you want to do. Like Mali, like what like sesame seeds, soybeans, a lot of guys go to Niger just to source it. Then they still ship
Sorry,
it through Apapa. Yes, I can hear you.
okay. Sorry, before you do that,
Yes.
do you have to tell the person to hold on for you to check, go to the neighboring country and give him or her feedback?
Okay. Well, because of trade, when we are talking about trade is a two-way communication. It has to be fast. So, as probably or most likely, the buyer is talking to two suppliers at once. He's talking to you and he's also talking to someone else. So the thing is that as you are conversing with the buyer, you have to also be communicating with your sources or suppliers. So you must put out the word that, okay, maybe you need a supplier and so and so. Oh, please, is there anyone that knows maybe someone that can supply me this or that sells this in Mali and if it is something that you have to go yourself, then you have to still make sure that you get a price estimate that both of you will agree on, have a contract before you now leave for that kind of environment for, okay, let me go to Mali, let me go to Niger, let me go to Togo, let me go to Benin Republic, before you go there and start sourcing. So, but you must still have all that. Then another thing also is that if you if you already know that this set of commodities is what I really want to focus on, and that commodity, there is a lot of it in Niger and a lot of it in Nigeria. So you can do your outing runs once. You can just go to the places in Nigeria, you do your due diligence. You take in because why would the advantage of you going to this market is that you meet suppliers, you meet farmers, you meet everybody, you collect their phone numbers, you introduce yourself. So you guys already have a relationship. You go to Niger, you do the same. So when you are in Lagos and someone is trying to order from you, it's easy for you to just reach out to the people in Niger, for instance. Just reach out to them, let them know what you need and all that. And if you are going to go there, they're already expecting you. They already know what you guys discussed, and they'll just, fill in the job for you. But it's not always good to tell the buyer to wait that, oh, give me 48 hours, give me 24 hours, because there are also other exporters who want to supply to the buyer. So it's good that you just find a way to reduce all time frames. You just find a way to reduce them. You have to just work hand in hand with others or with other people. So if I need something from there now, I just go to my WhatsApp. I start messaging some colleagues, some friends, some people I know that they frequent that market. They go to that market. I can ask them, do you have a contact you can send to me that I can also talk to, or that I can get sesame seeds from or soybeans from? So that way you start pulling resource together. Even sometimes you can just post it on your LinkedIn. And just post it on your LinkedIn that, oh, I'm in need of a supplier for soybeans, Niger origin. This is my budget. You can even put your budget there that this is my budget. I want to buy 100 tons, that kind of thing. You see, they will come in swarms that will respond to to your post, because everyone wants to supply also. So that's like another way to go about it, to run it.
Okay.
Okay, so for CIF, so I just said let's go into this pricing. So now let me use this example. Let's use this example for to look into other pricing if you are working on other pricing. So the one we just did now is for cost, insurance, and freight. It's for cost, insurance, and freight. So let's say, let me bring this. Let me copy this. Let me copy this and bring it here. So instead of CIF, let's see. Okay, so now one of the things you also need to notice is that when we say CIF, it's ended with the port of the buyer. It ended with the buyer's port. It ended with the buyer's port. So let's say what we want to do here is let me still leave this China. Let's say what we want to do here is CF. CF, or we can also call it CFR like this. So you can say CFR. So CFR is cost and freight. Cost and freight. Insurance is not involved. Cost and freight. If you look at for CF, which is cost and freight, the main difference is just coming to where we did our calculation. This calculation, all we just want to deduct from it is insurance. So it's just like coming here and then we deduct insurance. Yeah, so our total here is 28,041 and all that. Then all we want to do now is that we don't need insurance. Our insurance is 400 USD. 400 USD. So let's bracket this insurance because we want to deduct it. We want to deduct it. So in total, our total here will just be 400 USD. So 400 USD. 400 USD. And that means 28,000. 28,041,041.3 minus 400. That gives us 27,000. That gives us 27,641,641.3 USD. That's cost and freight without insurance. That's why we separated or we subtracted insurance from it. So this is what we have. So, and when you look at that, we can now do our breakdown. Our quotation will now be something in this region. Quotation for costs and freight, CFR. Costs and freight. Costs and freight. So let me put that on another slide. So our quotation for this will now be 27 27 641 27641.3 USD costs. So price, our price now will now be divided by 30. Divided by 30. So that will be 921. So you can see the difference. We'll look at that difference later. So that's 921.37 USD per ton. So instead of CIF, we have cost and freight. So we have cost and freight. So when you look at this now, when we were talking about cost, insurance, and freight, our price was 934.4 USD per ton. So if you look at the difference is just little, it's not much. So for cost and freight, the price is just 921.3 or zero point 0.4 USD. So, and when you look at this cost and freight too, it ends with the port of the buyer, that is the buyer port. So, um, the next is the next is the next is let's consider free on board, which is FOB, which is FOB. So now the difference is that for FOB, instead of it ending with the buyer's port, it is ending with your own port right here. That is the port where it's going to be loaded off from. So the price we need here now is FOB. So you can say FOB Apapa ports. That is you, the exporter's port. FOB Tinkan, FOB Port Harcourt, that kind of thing. So now your calculation will be different because what you want to give out now, you want to give out just cost. Insurance is not there, and freight is not there. So let's use this. Let's use this slide to do that. Okay. So what do we have? Then another thing also is that For FOB, your price is relatively going to be in Naira instead of USD. For cost and freight, cost insurance and freight, your price will be in USD because it involves USD. The freight part of it involves USD already. So you have to convert everything to USD so in order to give your price per ton. But for FOB now, we know that 30 tons is 24 million naira. Packaging and all that, dressing, everything gives us 300. Then we have logistics to Lagos, 2.5. Freight forwarding and all that, 500. Documentation certificate, 500. So what we can do in this case is to know that, okay, these are everything we are spending money on. So you can just come here and say, and add your profits to the work. So let's say profit. So let's say profit is 5 million. So now for this FOB, it can be in two different ways. So let me quickly explain that. So some buyers can tell you that bring the container to the port. Once the container gets to the port, you get paid. So once the container gets to the port, their own freight forwarder will just take over every other thing. It's like you hand over to them. Their freight forwarder will be the one to do all the documentation, certificate, and all every other thing. You just get paid from there, which means in that case, you might not add freight forwarding, documentation, certificates might not be there. So all you just need to do is bring it to the port, deliver it to the port, take your money and leave. So that, which means you add your profit and all that, but this freight forwarding and documentation might not be there. So, but for others, they will, ask you to take care of everything. So either way, you add your profit. So if you are going to add your profit to this now, you have 27.8 plus 5 million. And that way you have 32.8. So your quotation here, your quotation right here is really different from all that we've been doing, because now our quotation is based on a papa and it is in naira. It is in naira. So we have 32.8. So we have 32.8, which we can now divide this by 30. So dividing it by 30, we have, okay, for our price. So now we'll have, instead of USD, what we have is 1093, 1093, 333. So let's just leave it like that. So let's say this 1093,333 per ton. But our per ton now will now be FOB Apapa Port. FOB Apapa. So when you want to use these and use that to give your quotation, you can see the difference. So you can see that even if you are giving Okay, 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 okay. Okay, this is also giving this FOB is also given in USD sometimes. So it's not necessarily supposed to not be Naira. It's just dependent on what your buyer is specifying. Though you are going to be paid at the port, but since it is international, you can have this in USD and say 32.8 divided by 1.5. So that's reduces. So you have 866.67 USD. And for this is also the same thing as okay. This is also the same thing as 728.9 USD. So the FOB price is 728. When you looked at the CFR price, the cost, insurance, and freight is 921. That's for cost and freight. If you look at the cost, insurance, and freight, the cost, insurance, and freight is 934. So you can see the difference from 934 to 921 to 728. So one is higher than the other, one is relatively higher, one is lower. So when you are doing your calculation, one of the ways you know that maybe something is wrong, maybe something is wrong with your calculation, whether you didn't do it right and all that is just by comparing both sides. Just by comparing what your FOB looks like, what your CIF looks like, or what your cost and freight looks like. So these are just like the differences in it. Then we can check out X-Works. So X-Works is not something you have to calculate. X-Works is just the price from let me say from the place where the commodity is sold. This place where the commodity is sold, it can be a farm. It can be from a farm. It can be from a factory. It can be from a market. It can be from a state. It can be from an office. It can be from anywhere. So you can say X farm. That's the farm price. That is the price at the farm. Can be X warehouse. Means the price at the warehouse. X factory. It means the price at the factory. X Kano. X Kano, it means the price of that commodity in Kano. So that's just what it means. And buyer will just pay in local naira because you are buying and selling immediately from that point of sale, and responsibilities are going to shift because once the buyer pays the seller, the buyer will load the goods and all the risk goes to the buyer of the goods immediately. But it's not like that for your FOB, your cost and freight and cost, insurance and freight, just like everything that we went through in this pricing presentation. So let's go back to our initial presentation. Let's run through it because I've done like basically everything here, but we'll still have like one or two things to look at. So from this calculation, can you do your own quotation now?
Yes, I can. But I will
Oh,
need um real price,
okay.
cost of shipping, yeah.
Yes,
Since I
exactly.
don't I don't know how much they charge.
Yes, exactly. So you need
Yes,
those.
and again, even local, even truck. I don't know how much they charge. So all this will be difficult for me.
Okay. That's very true. That's very true. So this all these figures also, the truth is that it's not something you just have everything in one day. You work on it. You work on it day by day, day by day. Day by, you know, there'll be a time now you have people you know truck drivers. You have contacts of different truck drivers. So you can even be going on the road. You can be even be driving. You just see one truck. You just see a container at the back. You can collect the number of the driver. I just tell the driver, oh, I'm an exporter, I might need a truck someday, and I'll call you if you're available, if your container, if you have an empty container, you come, you load for me. Before you know it, you have five, you have 10. And the thing is that you don't know when a shipment will just come your way. And because one thing is that when you have an export contract and you are working to load a container or to get your, in fact you would have you would have you have the commodity, the goods, everything sourced. To now get container will now be an issue. To now be something like you are searching for container, searching for container, searching for container and all that. So but when you have all these contacts, you just go to your phone, you pick it and you make calls. So but I believe that it is something that you can do, because I see you as someone who has the capacity and the strength for the business for the business. So let's go into our main presentation. So, but thankfully, I'm happy we break that pricing down. So from that pricing, I can give you, like, maybe if we have an export contract or anything, it should be easy to just work with and give quotation for it. So today we are looking at Incoterms, the meaning, the purpose, uh, the importance of Incoterms in international trade. We already spoke about FOBCIF, XWORKS, CF. We'll also be looking at DDP, which is delivered duty paid. Then we have to assess the cost and risk of responsibilities for both buyers and sellers. So we'll discuss that very well. Since we already have an idea of how this pricing works, because with that pricing, you already understand most of what these Incoterms are doing. So how do you select the appropriate Incoterm for different or various transactions? That's also something. Then how applying negotiation tips to different scenarios. Different real-world export scenarios is also something we'll consider. So what are Incoterms? Incoterms, they are short for international commercial terms. They mean international commercial terms. And this Incoterm is formed by the International Chamber of Commerce, because the International Chamber of Commerce is supposed to be like an association of all the chambers of commerce in the world. So if they all come together and they form this Incoterm, so that it's going to be the same. The terminologies are the same across the world. They mean the same thing across the world. So it was first introduced in 1936 and it has been periodically revised. So it provides standardized rules for international trade contracts, so that there won't be any form of discrepancy. There won't be like, I thought FOB means freedom on something, something, or forced to do this and that. So everybody knows that when you hear FOB anywhere in a trade contract around the world, across the world, it means free on board. That's it. So there is no argument or changes about that. So why do Incoterms matter? Why do they matter? One, eliminate ambiguity in cross-border trade. So in China, it's the same. It means the same. In South America, it means the same. No ambiguity, no difference. So define responsibilities for delivery, insurance, and risk transfer. It defines the responsibility, who gets what, who does this, who does that. So that's one of the things that it does. It protects buyers and sellers in case of disputes. In case buyer and seller having any argument or have to fight or anything. So your export contract is what will guide you, and what you have in that export contract is your Incoterm. So it's now based on that Incoterm you know how to work or what you are working on. Ensure global uniformity in trade agreements. It ensures global uniformity in trade agreements. So scope of Incoterms, who arranges transport? In X works, for instance, let's say you want to buy your commodity from a warehouse. Who is going to arrange the transport to load from that warehouse? So the buyer can, the seller also can arrange the transport. But once you make payment at that warehouse, you paid 5 million naira at the warehouse, the seller or the merchant loads that goods on the truck, and the truck leaves that warehouse. The good is automatically your own. That is the buyer's own, and the buyer has to take responsibility for that good immediately. Immediately. So that's what definition means. So this Incoterm defines the scope of what a buyer can do or what a buyer should do. Same thing for the seller. So who pays for freight, insurance, customs, duty, etc.? Who pays for it? So that's why I said like FOB, which is free on board, for instance. Sometimes you are not paying for the freight, you are not paying for insurance because it's free on board. But when it comes to even customs duty at the buyer's country, when your contract is FOB, you have nothing to do with that. It's none of your own business. So when risk transfers from seller to buyer, when does that risk transfer? So we are going to look at it in all the Incoterms. So Incoterms does not cover transfer of ownership or title. It has nothing to do with that. And it also do not cover payment obligation. It doesn't cover payment obligation. It has nothing to do with letters of credit. So key features of Incoterms. What are the key features? It's divided into two categories. One is rules for any mode of transport. Yes, it creates rules for any mode of transport. So there are several Incoterms, but as an exporter, you are not going to be working. The Incoterms you are going to be working with are just 3 or 4 Incoterms. Yes, about 3 or 4 Incoterms. That's XWorks, FOB, CF, and CIF. Those are just the Incoterms you are really going to be working on every day. And that's why those are the things that we really focused on for our earlier calculations. So it creates rules for sea and inland waterways, anything that has to do with sea. It also creates the rules for it. Then each Incoterms has 3 key elements. They have cost, they have risk, they have responsibility. For X works, you can see what the cost is. It's just local cost. The risk is with the merchants at the warehouse. But once the buyer buys that product, the risk is transferred to the buyer. And also the responsibility is the same. It shifts from seller to buyer. It shifts from seller to buyer. And why that those commodities are in the warehouse, the responsibility and risk are on the seller. They are all on the seller. Then we have common Incoterms in practice: X works, free on board, cost, insurance, and freight. Before that, cost, insurance, and freight, sometimes we look at cost and freight because some buyers can say that they are not buying insurance or they don't need insurance. Some can also tell you that maybe the distance is not far, so just do it without insurance. So We also have delivered duty paid. So we are going to talk more on delivered duty paid, the DDP, because we've not actually spoken about that. So X works. Seller makes good available at their premises. That is, if it is X warehouse, seller makes the good available at the warehouse. If it is X factory, seller makes the good available at the factory. If it is X farm, seller makes the good available at the farm, their premises. So that's XWDW is premise, the premise at which the commodity will be sold. So buyer bears all costs and risk from pickup onward. So that's why I said from the time the goods is loaded for the buyer, the risk shifts to the buyer and shifts away from the seller. So advantage is that it has minimal seller responsibility. That's just, it's because the buyer would have loaded it right from the farm of the seller. Challenges is that buyer must handle logistics and export clearance. So that's just it. You have to handle your logistics and all that, which can be tough and stressful. So secondly, we have free on board. We say seller delivers goods on board the vessel at the named port of shipment. That is port of shipment, not destination now. That's why when I said FOB, I put Apapa port at the back of it as port of shipment. Then risk transfer, once goods are loaded onto the vessel. Once the goods are loaded on the vessel, the risks are transferred. It becomes the buyer's burden and no longer yours. So seller handles export customs clearance, buyer covers freight insurance and unloading costs for freight for free on board, because for free on board, you as the seller, you have no business with freight or insurance. Then there's cost insurance and freight. Seller pays cost, freight, and insurance to bring goods to buyer's import. Risk transfers once goods are loaded on the vessel. So buyer covers import customs clearance, and inland transport. So buyer is the one in charge of that. Then this is popular for bulk commodities like oil, cocoa, grains, etc. Yes, cost insurance and freight, because it is only when the goods are loaded on the vessel also that risk is transferred to the buyer when we are discussing cost insurance and freight. But in this case, you are going to be the one in charge of, doing the insurance and the freight, but the seller will pay for it, of course. Then we have delivered duty paid. We've not actually spoken about it. So seller delivers goods to buyer's premises, cleared through customs. You, the seller, you are going to be the one to deliver it to buyer's premises. That is the place where the buyer wants the good to be delivered. Could be at his house, could be at his office, warehouse, anywhere. And you, the seller, are still going to be the one to go through the customs and all that, clearing the container at the buyer's port, okay, at the buyer's port. So the risk, you bear that risk from here to the premise of the seller. So seller bears all costs and risk, including import duties and taxes. So advantage for buyer is minimal responsibility. In fact, almost no responsibility at all, apart from paying when the uh when the goods or commodities are delivered. Then high risk, yes, is really high risk for sellers. I don't think anybody takes delivered duty paid from Nigeria. So comparing Incoterms, X works and delivered document paid, they are opposite extremes of responsibility. Opposite, word and opposite. For X works, you as the seller, you shift the risk immediately the commodity is loaded on the buyer truck. But for documents, for duty delivered paid, the seller has to make sure that the commodity gets to the buyer's port. before responsibility is shifted, and that's just extreme. So you have free on board and cost insurance and freight. The difference in who pays freight and insurance. So we already has looked into that, and I know you understand that already. So the balance lies in negotiation. That is the balance for all these Incoterms, because Incoterms also helps you to negotiate. It helps you to negotiate when you see the Incoterm and you see the price and all that. So it helps you to talk to the buyer about what both of you can settle for that is going to be profitable for both of you. So we also have Incoterms determines who pay what, who pays for freight charges, who pays for insurance, who pays for customs duties and taxes, who pays for handling documentation fees. Exporters must include these costs in pricing strategy. So while you are drawing your quotation, while you are negotiating, while you are declaring your export prices, all these costs must be included. That's why I said you can't estimate or project costs, because so that you don't just go and be shooting yourself in the foot. So we have risk implications, risk of damage or loss transfers at different points depending on Incoterm. So the risk of damage or loss, this risk transfer is really depending on, the Incoterm, really, really dependent. So that's why sometimes, there are some exporters, they'll tell you they don't do anything that is not FOB. Some will tell you, oh, it's cost insurance and freight, because they have different kind of experience. And for some, the risk that is involved with a particular Incoterm is what they want or what they like. They don't want to consider any other form of risk. Then exporters must understand when they stop being liable. Yes, for every Incoterm, there is a point where you are no longer liable. If the importer calls you to complain or whatever, yes, you can respond, you can run around, you can help, but the liability is no longer on you, according to international trade laws and regulation. And these are like global laws. So that's why we have this Incoterm, international commercial term. The meaning is the same everywhere across the world. So buyers must confirm insurance coverage. So like I said when I was taking that CIF, that sometimes buyers will be the one to take to pay for their own insurance. Even though you can do that, add it to the cost and all that, but it's usually better that they just do their payment for the insurance from wherever they are, because they have better insurance companies. Then we have choosing the right Incoterms. Choosing the right Incoterms. Factors to consider. We have type of product, bulk or finished goods. We have buyer, seller bargaining power. The kind of bargaining power you have for different Incoterms will also help you. So choose which Incoterm you should work with. Then we have country regulations and restrictions. This regulation and restrictions is also crucial, because you need to understand the political and economic environment of the buying country, especially if what you are looking to do is duty delivered paid, that you have to be the one to do all the work, even get it to the buyer's premise. So if it's a country that's unstable, you don't want to do that, so you don't just lose money. Then we have exporters logistics capability, and you also have nature of buyer relationship. What's the kind of relationship that you have with the buyer also matters. Also matters a lot. So our first case scenario, which is like an example, is a Nigerian exporter of sesame seeds negotiates with a buyer in Germany. Buyer wants FOB Lagos. Exporter prefers CIF Hamburg. Who takes on more risk in each case? So if we are looking at the buyer that wants FOB Lagos, it means that once that container is loaded on the vessel, the risk is transferred to the buyer and seller is no longer liable for that container. Except, of course, that maybe buyer might be waiting that when the container gets to his own port and he clears it, that's when the seller gets his money. But even at that, when it comes to FOB, the seller seller's liability is reduced because once the container is loaded at the port, the risk shifts. Then for CIF Hamburg, it means that the buyer will be the one to do everything till that container gets to the buyer's port because the buyer will also pay for freight, pay for insurance and all that. So the buyer will not be worried about anything, just that let me know when the container gets to Hamburg. So in a situation where you are doing cost insurance and freight, the best bet is to make sure that your payment, you have it as a letter of credit or you have advance payment while the balance is presented to you in letter of credit. That's just the best bet. Discussion is who takes more risk. So for CIF, the buyer takes more risk. While for FOB, the buyer takes more risk, but seller takes more risk for CIF Hamburg. But for FOB Lagos, buyer takes more risks. Those are just the differences
But
for that scenario.
why would the exporter prefer CIF if it has more risk?
Okay, so the reason exporters prefer that CIF, even though it's risky, is because they get paid the more. They get more money. So let me quickly do like an explanation. So if you do FOB now, so let's say your FOB is $1,000 per ton. And in that $1,000 per ton, let's say the profit you are making on that $1,000 per ton is $100. Is $100. And you do your thing, you get to port, you hand over, you are free, you are done with your own job. Then another person comes and say that, oh, for this one, it is $1,500 per ton. It is CIF. Now, I don't want to use like to say like more profit. So now let's say on that $1,500 per ton CIF, the profit on it is still $100. It's still $100. The profit for FOB $1,000 is $100. But the profit for that $1,500 now is still $100. A lot of exporters prefer that one because at the end of the day, the numbers, it shoots up the number. So let's now say that for that $1,000 FOB, you get $30,000 in your account as amount paid for you. But in the CIF of $1,500, you get about $45,000 in your account. So that's one bigger transaction volume than the other. So some people would like to chase bigger numbers. Maybe they are looking to take on loans. Maybe they are looking to use their account information for something to show that they do larger volumes, they do larger figures. So there are different reasons why people take on different kind of risk when it comes to exporting. So some people now, they might be looking at what do they call it? Post shipment finance. So in post shipment finance, after the container has been loaded on the vessel and all that, they take all their documents, they take copies, they take their accounts, they do everything. They take it to like Nexim Bank and tell Nexim Bank that, oh, I have like $45,000 coming. Uh, So for some, they will go with that big numbers because they want to use that account to raise money. So when they get to a bank like Nexim Bank with all the documents for post-shipment finance, they just tell the banker, I'm expecting $45,000 that will be paid. I need a loan. maybe of $60,000, maybe of $70,000, for maybe another shipment, another. So they are able to raise money with bigger numbers, bigger volume. So some people even on a shipment that they are not really making money. They are not really making money on that shipment, but they just want to do the shipment because they need the numbers, maybe for one thing or the other that I might not really be able to point to. So, but people take up, in fact, even some people will take up some contracts that they are making losses on, but only they can explain why they are doing that. So some people do that. So, some people, you might have a company that will give you a letter of credit. Maybe that letter of credit is worth like $10 million, or maybe 15, $20 million. But on that deal, you are not really making any profit. Like, when you compare the profit to the amount of work you are putting in, it's actually not really good. It's not sustainable or feasible. But they will take it because of that letter of credit, because that large volume of letter of credit, like $10 million, it gives them room to finance. So even before they are done with such contracts, such contract might take 1 year, 2 years. Before they are done with it, they might have been able to leverage that letter of credit, get raised like maybe $5 million somewhere, use that to do business, use that to do something else. They might fix it, they might do whatever, so people do different kind of things. And that's also one of the reasons why, before you see a company in the US or in the UK that will give you like a large volume letter of credit and all that, it's taking more of a struggle now. So even some importers, that's why they will ask you to raise a performance bond. So what is it called now? You can see an importer, a buyer that wants to issue a letter of credit of, let's say, $1 million for you now. And the buyer will now tell you that, okay, for my bank to issue this letter of credit to your company, you must raise a performance bond of, let's say, like 1% or like 2% to cover the LC. So that in case you are not able to fulfill the terms and conditions of that letter of credit, and maybe the letter of credit expired, the performance bond that was raised will be like an interest to his own money that has been fixed in one place for the LC to run. Because once an importer issues a letter of credit, they won't be able to touch that money. So if an importer issues you a letter of credit of $1 million now, the importer is not able to touch that money till the letter of credit expires. So which to them also is just like a loss. So they will now tell you to raise a performance bond. That performance bond will now be like an insurance on their own letter of credit. So, and it's because of all these things that are happening. So that's it. And then some exporters don't even understand this business. Some don't, like the way we went through the calculation on quotations and all that. Some exporters don't even understand it. So some just know that, oh, let me just put load inside container and ship it. That's all that matters to them. And ship it so that I can also call myself exporter. People can know that I'm exporting, but there is a whole lot more to exporting than that. So let's look at the second scenario. We have another scenario. So a new exporter with little logistics experience is selling processed cashew to a UK buyer. Buyer requests X works, exporter considers deliver duty paid. Which option is safer for the exporter and why? Okay, if you remember X works is that means for that exporter, the buyer requests X works, which means that the exporter should sell at the price of his own factory or warehouse or house, whatever premise that he's going to sell the goods from. So that question that you asked earlier still applies to this. The buyer requests for X works price. The exporter is considering delivered duty paid. Delivered duty paid is that I will bring the shipment to you wherever you are in the UK. That is doorstep delivery. So let's say that buyer in the UK has a company, is located somewhere in maybe in Essex, for instance. And the exporter is now telling the buyer that, where your factory is in Essex, don't worry, I'll deliver the 20 feet container of processed raw cashew nut to your own company right there. So you don't have to do any problem. You don't have to stress yourself. So the exporter will do all the logistics here, get it on the vessel. When it now lands in the UK, the exporter here will be the one to run for paying for the freight, for the insurance, for the clearing, for everything, for the customs duty, everything that will be done. Then get a truck, a driver that will drive the container down to the company's office for it to be offloaded and all that. And. So, but I'm just guessing, I don't know, I'm just guessing that for the exporter is considering that DDP because the price, the cost he's going to give the buyer, that is the money the buyer is going to pay for that will really be high. It will really be high. So sometimes you can even have the amount of goods you want to export can be like maybe $5,000, but the shipment of that goods alone might also be as the same as $5,000 when it comes to this delivered duty paid. So that might be the reason why the exporter is considering that DDP in this case. So, but when you look at the option that is safer for the exporter, X works is actually what is safer because the buyer will come, bring his own truck and all that. You load at your own warehouse and you wave them goodbye. And the risk, whatever liability is off your shoulder. But in this case, I know the exporter will want to earn more. When you are giving your quotation in dollars and all that, you feel like you are getting more money rather than getting paid in naira. So those are just like some excuses that some people have. So Incoterms negotiation tip, we have understand the buyer's logistics strength. That is the person that wants to buy the goods from you. How capable is he or she when you are looking at logistics? That will also help you to know the kind of Incoterms that you should push for. So if it's someone whose logistics is really strong, can just tell the person that X warehouse, come and pick it up from my warehouse. If it's someone that has a very strong freight forwarding process, then it's better. FOB is better. Once you get to the post like this, you hand over to the person's agent. So it makes work less stressful for you. That's it. So do not accept terms you cannot manage. Yes, that's it. If you read through an export contract, you see that something is not, sounding right, is not, you are thinking it can have an issue, then it's just better you don't do it. Then price your goods according to responsibilities. Price your goods according to responsibilities is really important. So what you won't be spending on, there is no need putting it in your quotation so that it will help your pricing to remain competitive. So use Incoterms to gain competitive advantage. Yes, use it to gain competitive advantage. If you know that globally the CIF price for so and so is a particular figure, you can do your calculation in such a way that you can give even a better price, a competitive price than that, and use that to gain audience, or let me say buyers. Always confirm terms in writing in the sales contract. So in your export contract, always confirm that this is the Incoterm you are discussing about. This is the payment term. This is the way he wants to do this, the way he wants to do that. These are the packaging. Everything, the terms, the rules of engagement, make sure it's in your export contract. And it is spelled out. It is spelled out clearly. So some key takeaways from today's class is Incoterm has international rules for cost. It's used as an international rules for cost, for risk, and for responsibilities. Some common ones are X warehouse, free on board, cost and freight, cost insurance and freight, and we also have delivered duty paid. Then you also have a correct choice of Incoterms reduces disputes. Yes, it reduces dispute. Then always negotiate Incoterms alongside payment terms. Yes. Always, always, always. Payment terms in the sense that is it going to be advance payment? Is it going to be cash against document or is it going to be letter of credit? Uh, very, very important. Very important, please. So you have some discussion questions also to answer. I'm going to send the PDF to your Telegram today, so you can also look through them. Then once the session is loaded, you get the link. So do you have any question for today? I hope you find it interesting.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so if there is any other thing, you can just let me know and we'll put an answer to it.
No problem. Please, I really need a real um contract deals that we can work on.
Okay, yes, yes, yes. I am working on something that I believe we should get one this week. We should get one this week. So that you
Okay.
can have a buyer that you are currently in talks with.
What product is that?
Yeah, no, I know I said so. No, on the commodity, I wouldn't know for now. Let me just, it's when I have something that will know that, okay, maybe this is the commodity we are looking at. You can actually have like different kind of contracts or different kind of commodities that you are working with. So, because like, for instance, there are some commodities that are not in season currently, like is when they come back that buyer starts sending contracts for it. So, but as it is now, I'm in talks with someone that I'm hoping that before the day end, I should know the kind of contracts that are available or that you can work on.
Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. So, okay, we'll be ending the class today. Okay, we have just one more session. We have just one more session. Let me see. Okay, we should be able to do it on Saturday or maybe on Wednesday, but let me just try as much as possible to get you a buyer to work with first.
Okay.
Yes, yes. All right, so I'll give you feedback on how the prospective buyer thing is going. So I'll give you feedback like in the evening or in the night. So just expect my message.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. So have a great day ahead.
I'm okay, sir.